Hello friends! So I took a week off, but I didn't want to fall behind, so I posted another poll to the community tab on YouTube for you guys to vote on which movie I would share my thoughts on this week, along with Bad Boys Ride or Die. As you can tell, you guys did not let me down. I have been wanting to talk about this movie so badly, and I have to ask, did Marvel Jesus just save the MCU? Hey there, movie lovers. Welcome back. It's your movie buddy here, ready to dive into the latest film that I watched. Whether you're a longtime subscriber or follower, or you're a new face, I am thrilled to have you here. If you're looking for detailed plot breakdowns, you're not going to find them here. But stick around for my spoiler-free thoughts and honest opinions. And if you're here with me on YouTube, you can find timestamps in the video description to jump straight to the sections that you're most interested in. New reviews drop every Friday or Saturday, because that happens around here sometimes. So hit the subscribe button on YouTube and follow on Spotify to stay updated. Any TikToks and articles I mentioned in today's episode will be linked in the description below. So grab your popcorn, hit that subscribe button, hit that follow button, and let's jump into today's episode on Deadpool and Wolverine. Deadpool's peaceful existence comes crashing down when the Time Variance Authority recruits him to help safeguard the multiverse. He soon unites with his would-be pal, Wolverine, to complete the mission and save his world from an existential threat. As always, I want to get into the themes of the film, or at least my take on it. The plan is to talk about guilt, and I think it's kind of funny because I actually talked about the same thing in the Bad Boys Ride or Die episode. In that episode, I listed some other themes of the film, but I said that what stuck out to me the most was guilt, because it's something that I identify with. It might sound bad, but I love to see a character who's given up on themselves. They are at their lowest, and for good reason. But what I love even more is to see their journey of healing, to see them claw their way back to redemption. It's incredibly interesting, and Logan is an excellent example. He transforms from a man who wants nothing to do with anyone really, to someone who's willing to team up and reach forgiveness. Obviously, in talking about the theme, we touched a little bit on character development for Logan, and the film really does an excellent job developing both Logan and Wade. Their dynamic cannot be understated. It is everything, and it truly makes this movie special. Their contrasting personalities and histories lead to incredible character moments and significant growth that all add incredible depth to their dynamic. Moving on from the character development, we have to talk about the visuals of this film. I want to talk about their costumes for a second. I love them. No notes. They are phenomenal. I also saw an interview where it was either Hugh or Ryan that said that when they were both suited up in costume for the first time, people on set were like speechless. You definitely get that feeling more than once while watching this movie. The suits are incredibly detailed, and there is so much accuracy that I actually kind of want to cry. There's so much to get excited about. I love Deadpool's suit, always have. I loved seeing Wolverine's classic yellow and blue suit. There were some more. One more I was so excited to see, but you know I'm not dropping spoilers. The CGI was pretty good when it was pretty good, and not pretty good when it wasn't. The cinematography was also okay overall. It did what it did well enough. It captured the essence of the characters, and there were some shots that were kind of a visual treat, and a lot of them were in slow motion. Before we move on, I do want to take a second to talk about the fight sequences, because there was a lot that I really loved in some of these moments. I love the opening. Incredible. And on a side note, I just want to say that the fact that I'm seeing music from my childhood blow up all over again in real time is unreal. I also really love the fight sequences between Wade and Logan, the fight in the Void and the fight in the Honda Odyssey. There were a lot of well choreographed moments. Not every fight in the movie was great or visually fantastic or clear to see, but there were some really well done moments that were creative, refreshing, and exciting. Now, let's get into the acting. Overall, I think everyone did a fantastic job. I want to give shout outs to more people, but I am not spoiling any cameos for anyone that has not seen the movie yet. I think Emma Corrin, who plays Cassandra Nova, did a fantastic job. She nailed the villain role and delivered an interesting character. I just wish she had more screen time. Matthew McFadden did well as Mr. Paradox, but there was a lot of comedy playing around his performance. Also, Leslie Uggams as Blind Al should have had more screen time, and Peggy as Dogpool, aka Mary Poppins, is the standout performance in this film and the best Deadpool variant. And I won't fight you about that. because I'm not wrong. Okay, enough hee-hawing around, you guys. Let's talk about the best bubs. Hugh Jackman's Logan and Ryan Reynolds' Wade. Wolverine and Deadpool, respectively. Let's just gloss over Ryan because let's be real, he's playing himself, and we love that. Moving on to Hugh Jackman, Hugh returns to his iconic role with a feral rage that feels fresh and new, while also feeling familiar. Of course, he stands out in those intense moments where he's yelling and trying to kill, but Hugh really gets to shine in those vulnerable moments where he easily delivers nuance. His return to the role is truly a highlight of the entire film, and honestly, Phase 5. Hugh coming back after hanging up the claws feels effortless, and he manages to deliver a Logan that's different than any we've seen before, while again, still feeling familiar. You already know we have to talk about their chemistry in this movie, and I don't mean all the chemistry that was in that Honda Odyssey. The chemistry between Ryan and Hugh is dynamic and electric. Sure, there is so much humor injected into not just Ryan's dialogue, but their conflicting personalities as well. I love that there's so much rage and comedy, but the pair just as easily work in those heartfelt moments without missing a beat. Their partnership and team up is satisfying. As a fan and as someone who just enjoys watching movies, it feels organic and like a fresh take on a superhero team up. Now let's talk about the story because it definitely feels different from a Deadpool movie, and I'll talk about that more in the comparison section next. What I really appreciate is how the story brings Deadpool and Wolverine together. If you don't think about the larger implications and what that could mean for past and future MCU events and characters, I'm totally interested. I know there was a lot of talk online leading up to the film's release about Logan's legacy and what the 2017 film means to all of us. I think this movie really made a clear line between that Logan and the Logan we're introduced to in this movie. That said, the character's history is respected. Okay, maybe not respected, but at least it's not retconned or ignored. The story expertly balances action, humor, and those emotional moments. It's engaging, it feels well-paced. Even in moments that can seem slow, they offer rich character interactions. It's not just the banter and dialogue, but details, additional characters, and so much more that kept the movie from feeling like it was dragging its feet at some points. Leading up to Deadpool and Wolverine, my honey and I rewatched the previous two Deadpool movies. After watching the new film, my honey asked where I would rank it, and I told him it's like picking a favorite child. And you definitely have a favorite child. I really love Deadpool 2. It's one of my go-to movies to put on when I don't know what else to watch. I also know that that one isn't everyone's favorite. If you're one of those people, that's totally fine. We're both right. Earlier, I said this movie didn't feel like a Deadpool movie. Let's talk about that a little bit more. Deadpool and Deadpool 2 feel much smaller, more self-contained, which absolutely makes sense because of the studio rights. But what I mean is that they feel more character-focused, and I don't just mean the main character Deadpool, I mean that too, but the side characters as well feel very well integrated and integral to the story. Deadpool and Wolverine, while I love it more than I can express, I felt like it didn't really bother to try to flesh out other characters, give them more screen time, or build upon what Deadpool and Deadpool 2 established. After seeing the movie, I get why they went that route. There is a lot going on, but it was something that stood out to me and something I really wanted from the story. Now, let's wrap up with my final thoughts on the movie. I'm sure you know where I stand already, but maybe you're still wondering if this movie is worth your time. In my opinion, this movie is absolutely worth your time. The theater experience was not on par with opening night for Infinity War, but it was pretty close. I love this movie so much. I want to watch it right now. It is hilarious. It's entertainingly violent. The action is fantastic. And the cameos. You guys, the cameos. I was leaning over from side to side in my seat because I got my mom on one side, I got my honey on the other side, and I'm leaning over back and forth and I'm repeating, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. And then being able to cheer with fellow fans is such an awesome experience. I absolutely love the title intro. When we rewatched the movies, I was telling my honey that I hope Deadpool and Wolverine would have that same amazing, over-the-top, hilarious intro, and it did not disappoint. There is so much to say about this movie. I love the cameos. They're excellent, and I was losing my mind. The movie has plenty of fan service beyond the cameos, and it's done in a way that just enhances not just the movie watching experience, but the story as well, rather than detracting from it. It's a tricky balance because there is a lot of slow motion moments and really moments that just lead up to a reveal or a pose. But as a longtime fan, I was thrilled. The pacing of these moments coupled with Deadpool's reactions make them accessible for newcomers too. I really love the action sequences in this movie. I know some people didn't like them, but I really loved moments in the action sequences. Little things like the way Deadpool reloads his gun and the way he grabs his sword during their fight in the void, or when Wolverine just unleashes that brutal ferocity. It really locked me into the action. I love their fighting styles and how the action really highlights their fighting differences. I also love the amount of violence. I was pleasantly surprised, and I really think it's because Deadpool and Deadpool 2 feel like a Deadpool movie with the expected violence, but Deadpool and Wolverine feels like an MCU movie. And on top of that, they really elevated the gore, which I appreciated. You guys, it is so violent. I could talk about everything I love about this movie for hours, but we don't have that kind of time, and I don't have that kind of retention rate. So we're gonna move on. Of course, every movie has its pros and cons, and naturally, people like what they like. We're gonna get into some criticism of the movie, and I'll share my thoughts. I wanna say right off the bat that I was shocked at the number of people who seem to not fully grasp what it means when a movie is rated R. So many people complained about the language and the violence. Some people even walked out of the theater. This is the third installment, and if you're not familiar with the character or even the comics, then I don't know, just do your research before watching this movie, and by research, I just mean at least know about the character. Moving on, somebody said that this plot is a mess. It's just a bunch of disconnected scenes, and the story feels like an afterthought. I want to know more if you agree with this take, because I think there was something amiss with the story too, but not in the way this person is saying. Personally, my issue is with the way the relationship between Wade and Vanessa was written, because I totally feel like I missed something. Anyway, I think there is very much a story here, and I think it's a simple story with so much to it, whereas previous installments were simple stories with a more stripped back and simple execution. I just mean I can see how somebody can take issue with the story. I was also surprised at the amount of people that just simply hated Deadpool. I think there are people that went to watch this for Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, but it is still very much a Deadpool movie, and he's got a ton of screen time. People said he was annoying and immature. Personally, I love the character. He's one of my favorites, and if you think he's a lot in the movies, then he is even more in the comics. I think you definitely have to like Deadpool, or at least be able to tolerate him, because he is absolutely dialed up in this movie compared to previous installments. I honestly didn't consider that people would try to jump in with this movie. I'm gonna hold your hand and speak gently when I tell you this. Deadpool and Wolverine is the third film in the Deadpool franchise and the 34th film in the MCU. You cannot just jump in. I think you can follow the basic story, but there is so much, from the meta humor to the comic book references to the references of previous films to the cameos to the fan service, that you'll miss entirely. I think if you jump in with this movie, you are missing out on the impact that this film has. I think what amazes me is how many negatives there were from people who I think just didn't know what they were getting into. Some complained about Logan passing in his self-titled film in 2017 and how he's back. They explained it in the movie, and Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman have had a number of interviews where they talk about this exact thing. Now, there were a couple comments that I could really get behind here, and one was about the CGI, and the other is from Jay Stubbs, who I love, and her comment is about required knowledge. Starting with the CGI, I agree that it was weird at times. I really do love all the CGI blood and guts, but there were some moments where the CGI looked like a video game cutscene. The previous installments of Deadpool have their obvious CGI moments, of course, but there was something off about some of the CGI in this movie. I will say it didn't really take me out of the movie until it got toward the end, then it started getting a little funky. Moving on to Jay Stubbs' comment, she said that she thinks, quote, both the amount of in-universe lore and like meta movie making and movie history knowledge you have to have going into this to understand the plot might be a bit much to ask of general audiences, end quote. I have to say that I was actually worried about my mom going into this movie because while she's seen all of them, I'm not sure how much really sticks with her. Maybe she doesn't like a movie, so she forgets about it, or she doesn't care about a character. So I was worried she would miss out on all the background characters, side characters, and the cameos. but she really enjoyed the movie and she was able to follow the plot just fine. However, I do think there's a lot between the studio ownership of the characters, the cameos, like they're so good, but you have to be familiar with the characters and know like the real life history to truly appreciate what they were able to bring us on screen. You guys, I never thought I would see the day. I'm so happy. My point is, I agree with her completely, but at this point, I feel like the MCU itself is becoming a lot to ask of general audiences, especially with the TV shows. You really have to have seen Loki season 1, episode 5 to really laugh and understand that joke. I say general knowledge will get you by, but deeper knowledge will give you such a rich understanding and satisfaction. Wrapping up this section, we have to talk about what to watch, and as usual, when talking about the MCU, you cannot just jump in, and it is a lot to take on if you're new to the franchise. I linked an article down below, and they have a lot of movies on their list, but I'm gonna streamline it to keep it short. The full list will help you identify a lot of characters that are reintroduced in this movie, while also not spoiling the cameos. So here's what I think you need to watch: Deadpool, Deadpool 2, Logan, and Loki. Now that we've passed the Infinity Saga, watching or at least knowing the events of Infinity War and Endgame is an absolute must because it is a critical moment in the MCU and it impacts all these characters and the overall story. Starting with Deadpool, this is a fantastic love story that's going to introduce you to the Merc with the Mouth, and it serves as his origin story. We get introduced to the one that matches his crazy, his girlfriend Vanessa, as well as the best cab driver Dopinder, Weasel, and the incredible blind Al. Deadpool 2 is a fun family movie. Please note, these movies are rated R. Please watch them before watching with children, especially the first movie. Anyway, this one follows Deadpool as he helps to save Russell from a future soldier. Logan is such a good movie. It follows Logan and Professor X, and Logan's plans to stay hidden from the world. They get turned upside down when he meets a young mutant named Laura. Finally, Loki. You don't have to watch the entire series, but you definitely should, because it is absolutely one of the best things to come out of Phase 5. But you only need to watch up to episode 5 of season 1. If you are completely unfamiliar with the MCU, this is a watered down list of what I think are the essentials: 3 movies and part of a series on Disney+. It's not much. You'll be able to get by, but you are missing out on a lot, and you probably won't feel that magic. You can tackle the full list that I linked below. Honestly, I would even add more to that list to include the cameos, but as always, breaking it down into small portions is key. These are my picks for what to watch before you watch Deadpool and Wolverine. As always, no matter where you are in your MCU journey, we are all in this together. Have you had the chance to watch Deadpool and Wolverine yet? If not, what's holding you back? Is the barrier for entry too high? Is it not your usual genre? Is it too much, too violent, too vulgar? I'm really curious to hear your thoughts after today's episode. And if you've already watched it, I want to know your take. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Did you fall somewhere in between? Dogpool is the best Deadpool. I'm not asking, I'm telling you. Share your thoughts, opinions, and reactions in the comments below. I am all ears. At this point, many people are done with the MCU, and the jokes about that are hilarious. And maybe this movie brings some people back, maybe it doesn't. I've been in it since before the beginning, and I will say I haven't been this excited about a project or the future of the MCU in a very long time. I generally like the MCU, but I can see its faults, and there have been plenty of movies that I've liked, but very few have really struck me the way Deadpool and Wolverine did. This isn't the best movie. Honestly, it might not even be incredibly rewatchable in the way that I rewatched Deadpool 2, but it is still a fantastic movie. For fans of the comics, anyone who's been watching since before the beginning, anyone who follows these movies outside of the theater, and I mean like interviews, other films, and things like that, you will find a lot to be excited about. The fan service is satisfying, and it doesn't detract from the plot, and some are even woven into the narrative in a way that is clever and rewarding. The villain is incredible. She should have had more screen time. The costumes are amazing. I love a lot of the writing. It's full of witty banter, situational humor, and again, the references are outstanding. And this movie is full of energy and personality. They fought for creative freedom with this one, and it pays off. If you're familiar with the previous 2 Deadpool movies, then you know the soundtrack is gonna slap. All the songs in these movies are excellent, but it's always exciting when you watch a movie and it's just got a bunch of songs that are in your daily rotation. The music perfectly complements the characters, the story, the tone, and the varied moods and moments. Deadpool and Wolverine manages a farewell to the 20th Century Fox Studio X-Men characters, and it fits perfectly into the film. However, this is one of those examples where I was saying if you don't watch everything on that what to watch list, you won't get how meaningful moments like that are. Additionally, it may feel out of place if you're not familiar with the studio rights and all the real-life history I mentioned earlier. There is so much going into this movie. It's such a rewarding film. They knew what fans wanted and they delivered in spades. All right, you guys, before we wrap up, I want to talk about what movies I'll be sharing my thoughts on next. I'm still chipping at the movie block I got stuck behind, and we are starting to catch up. We have Maxine up next, and if you caught the last few episodes, then you know I finally watched X and Pearl. After that, we've got the movie that has been all over my For You page, Longlegs. Once I'm all caught up, I've got a list of podcast exclusive episodes that I'm going to start working on. As for upcoming theater releases, I had tickets for Trap, and I recorded this episode beyond last minute, so I've already seen the movie and I have some thoughts. The last movie I have tickets for is Alien Romulus, which I have such high hopes for. Horror in space is really my happy place, so I am very excited to see that movie. If there is a movie that you are excited about and you want me to talk about, let me know in the comments below or send me a message on Instagram. Your suggestions are always welcome and I love hearing from you. But for now, a huge thank you to everyone who has stuck around with me to the end of the video. Last time we talked, I shared my long-winded thoughts on Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Now, because I skipped a week and I didn't want to fall behind, I also posted my thoughts on Bad Boys Ride or Die. If you haven't checked out one or both of those episodes yet, they are just a click away. If you're watching today's episode on YouTube, you can find the links to both in the top right corner. And for my podcast listeners, both of those episodes are available for you as well. Your feedback is always appreciated, so please share your thoughts on YouTube in the comments below. And if you're listening on the Spotify app, they added a comment section, so let me know what you're thinking. Please, because I want to talk about this movie. Who is your favorite Deadpool? Did you agree with my take? Do you have a different opinion? Do you think Deadpool and Wolverine revived the MCU, or was it a miss? I have to say that this is the most I've seen people excited for an MCU movie in a while, and it's exciting energy to be around. Let's get the conversation going. If you're enjoying the content, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an episode. For those who prefer on-the-go listening, maybe while you're getting ready for your day, maybe while you're at work, follow me on Spotify so you don't miss out on our podcast exclusive episodes, which are on their way. And hey, if you're on Instagram, follow me at a.rocket.review for sneak peeks and behind the scenes content. And that's really just me going to the theater and watching movies at home. Feel free to hop into my DMs with movie suggestions or just to chat about films. Your support honestly means so much to me, and your engagement helps our community grow. Whether it's on YouTube, the podcast, or on Instagram, your presence is greatly appreciated. So until next time, spread positivity, be safe, take care of yourself, and happy movie watching. I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.